So I was waiting tables at my new job, Texas Roadhouse. All of a sudden this girl comes in my section. She sits at my table. I look at her, I said, "What's up, girl? You want Cactus Boss more steak?" And she said, "I think I want a ribeye." And I said, "Bitch, you don't tell me what you want. I'm gonna put on your table what I want. You understand that shit?" She looked at me all scared. Thought she wanted to get up, and I offered her a margarita. I said, "Bitch, you're gonna sit down and you're gonna drink this margarita. Do you understand?" Anyway, she sat there, and I brought her out her food. And she said, "What time you get out?" And I said, "Bitch, it don't matter. I'll fuck you in this table. I'll put your ass under this bed, and I'll rape your ass right on the table 215. She didn't know that I'd fallen asleep under 215 one night at a meeting. Anyway, my buddy in the back, he said he was gonna help me get out of there early. His name's Lo or Joe or Ro or something like that. And he was supposed to help me get out of that shit so I could go get my dick wet. He's supposed to help a nigga out. Hook a nigga up, bitch. He knows I'd do that shit for him or not. I probably wouldn't, but I couldn't say I would. Anyway, he said, "I'm gonna help you get out, boy, so that way you can go get that dick wet and go get your nut off." And I said, "You're a real friend, boy. I understand that and I respect you for that shit." Anyway, he said, "Dude, we won't leave until both of us get done with this shit." And I said, "Damn straight." Anyway, sitting there, and I was doing my back of the house so I can go get out of there and get my dick wet from that bitch in my section. And he looks at me and he says, "Well, I'm all done. I'll see you later." And I said, "Bitch, you ain't gonna help me sweep this shit?" He said, "Dawg, I already swept." It's like, "You gotta wipe off all the tables still." I said, "Bitch, that takes longer. You ain't hooking a nigga up, you hooking your bitch ass up." Anyway, he walked out, and I swear to God, if I ever saw that motherfucker on the street again, I'll beat his ass. Because he quit that night. Anyway, I called that bitch, and I said, "Yo ho, what's up?" And she said, "Is this that guy Stek from Texas Roadhouse?" And I said, "Bitch, you already know." And I said, "What you wanna do? You wanna get my dick wet and some of that pussy you got?" And she said, "I don't know, I just met you." I said, "Bitch, today ain't your day if you gonna play like that shit. I'm gonna get my dick wet and you're gonna give it to me." So she got all scared and didn't know what to do. And I said, "Bitch, meet me at Logan's Roadhouse." And she said, "But you work in Texas for us." I said, "Bitch, I know where I work. I gotta go to that place every fucking day. I gotta make money so that way I can pay for the gas to pick your bitch ass up in my Vanimal. Cause I drive a van, and there's no middle seat in that bitch for a reason." Anyway, she gets in my van, and she said, "Stek, why you got a machete back there?" And I said, "Bitch, it's for the girls that don't give me what I want. Now be a good girl and unzip them pants." She unzipped her pants and I slipped myself right into some pussy. I was like, "Oh, bitch, I feel good." Now, I didn't wear a condom, and I know I didn't. Because I was too fucked up from the meth that I smoked that day. And I know I got my nut. Because I know, because nobody else would ever fuck that bitch and I got her pregnant. I ain't ever gonna fuck a fat bitch like that again. Anyway, she asked for my MySpace. And I said, "Bitch, you can't have my MySpace." And she said, "Well, why not?" And I said, "Because my girl's on my MySpace and I don't want you to meet her." Anyway, she started talking shit about them Dallas Cowboys. And I said, "Bitch, you don't talk shit about the Dallas Cowboys." And she kept telling me the St. Louis Rams were 10 times as good as my team. And I said, "Bitch, that's a mistake." she gets up and she's like, what you gonna do if I keep talking about the Rams? Keep talking about my guys and the Rams. I said, bitch, you ain't got shit. Bulger's a bitch quarterback. He ain't got no Tony Romo shit. And she said, we're gonna make it to the playoffs in the Super Bowl this year, and you Cowboys can watch at home. And I said, bitch, not today, not tomorrow. Get your ass out of my car. Anyway, she stepped out of my car real fast like she should've. I said, bitch, that's right. Don't you ever fucking come me to Texas Roadhouse again. She didn't know how to answer. And I said, that's right, bitch. You understand that shit. And if I ever see your ass there, I'll kill your ass. Unforgivable not to be a Cowboys fan.